it is now the time to have a look at the engine we will be using for this game. Now, if you don't have Unity already, if you don't have Unity Hub or any individual version, please head over to the store.unity.com/download. You will also be able to find this link in the resource down below. And also in the resource down below, if you're looking for an older version of Unity, there will also be a link for that as well. Okay, so on this link, this is a link to download what we call the Unity Hub. And Unity Hub will be additional software that runs on your machine that will let you grab different versions of Unity and manage all of that together. Now, if you want to use this for free, you have to agree to the terms and services. Basically, it asks you, do you make over $100,000 if you're using this for personal, and if you're not, if you're using this for corporate, then you're going to need a specific license for it. But we'll get more into that as we download this thing. So let's go ahead and download Unity Hub. It's something that is already done on my end. If you have a Mac, you can click here and also download that for the Mac. And once you have Unity Hub installed, it's going to look something like this. So this is Unity Hub. And in my case over here, since I already have a installed version of Unity, so 19.4, and I also have a project, I have something that shows up a little bit different than you do if it's the first time for you installing this. So what I do recommend before you go any further is to actually sign in and create a Unity ID, so a Unity account in this case. The reason I'd like you to do that is so first you can attach a licensing model to your account, but also so you have access to saving on the cloud through Unity Collaborate for free. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And once I'm signed in, you will see that I have access to the rest of my projects on the cloud. And that's a lot of them. Now, once more, if it's your first time using Unity, you probably don't have a license just yet. So it's very important that you go ahead and it's going to ask you to activate a license. There is activate a license, or there's also manual activation. If you're hooked up on the internet, which I bet you are if you're watching this, go ahead and click activate new license. It's going to ask you a simple question. Are you using this for personal or professional? Do you make more or less than $100,000 in gross revenue? Click done, and your license will be updated or activated. Once that is completed, you will now have access to installing the engine. So I clicked back, and now I have access to the install. And let's talk quickly about the Unity version. So you should see the add button at the top here. If you don't have anything, click on it. Here are the current version available. And it's very interesting how Unity goes and develop these. First up, let me explain what type of version we have. We have a regular version, like this one, has nothing next to it. We have the LTS, which stands for long-term support. We have the alpha, and we have the beta. When you're developing a project that you think is going to take quite a while, or you want this course to be relevant in the future, I do want you to think about which version you're going to be using. Personally, as somebody that likes to experiment with Unity quite a lot, I'm always meddling around in the alpha or beta. But if I want to create something that is going to have to be published by the end of the year, or something of the sort, a project that is commercial, oftentimes you will want to opt for something that is LTS, for long-term support, because bug fix will be applied to this, everything will be applied to this. So everything mandatory will be applied to this, and it's considered a version that works very well. Now, if we go under the alpha or the beta, chances are some things are broken. Let's be honest, sometimes they do an update to Unity that breaks something else. I remember recently they broke the mobile build and also the key store. So I like to stay with LTS when it comes down to publishing something 100%. But I do hope that you have some fun. You go experiment with new packages that are only available in alpha or beta, because that's always very nice as well. But for the purpose of this project, I will be using the LTS version. So click next, and then it's very important that you download a couple of tools. Since we are going to be building this for mobile phone, in my case, the Android, I will be taking and checking all of these three, making sure I do have the Open GDK and the Android SDK. I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio for coding, so of course I want to have this one on. If you're doing iOS, please go ahead and click this. I don't think we need anything else in there. If you want to mess around with Windows build, you could, but I personally don't have a Windows phone. And if it's your first time using Unity, you have the option to download the documentation. But to be honest, it's very accessible from the internet. And most of the time, I just Google stuff directly from their documentation. And it's much easier than using the one that you download. So I'm going to save myself a couple of meg and just go without it. If you are choosing Visual Studio just like me for your IDE, integrated development environment, then go ahead, accept the term and license, conditions. Yep, I already have all of that, so I should be set already. And this is actually going to start a download for you. Now, one thing I'd like to point out, I'm going to be using 19.4.2. It's the LTS, but to be honest, I'll be using the latest LTS as long as the project goes. I like to upgrade, as long as we have an LTS tag, I like to upgrade my version. But for example, I would not move on to 2020 as of right now because it's still in beta, and I would not want anything to break in the middle. Something quite interesting that you might not know regarding Unity and how they do the versioning. They actually have to publish, and it's something that they've been doing recently since 2018. They have to publish at least one version every quarter. So if we have a look over here, this version we're using is 19.4, so 2019.4, which means it's the last version of 2019. There's never going to be a 2019.5. It's only going to be 0.4. And if we have a look in the future, we have 20.1, 2020.2. That's because we've started the second quarter of 2020. And there is a new release to be scheduled at the third quarter. So in 2 months from now, there should be 2020.3 coming out, which is most likely going to be an alpha. That being said, we now have to wait for Unity to fully download, and you should be expecting black boxes showing up like a command prompt. That happens when Unity installs. One thing I'd like to point out is that in the past, I've had issues with downloading Unity while I was on VPN. So maybe if that's one of your problem, try to disable your VPN and then install Unity. And if you're facing any other issue, please leave it in the course comments down below, and we will go ahead and try to help you out. Okay.